Presiding Officer, can I thank Beatrice Wishart for her first speech in the Parliament, congratulate her on that. It was a very passionate one, and I can see Shetland won't be forgotten in the Chamber going forward. So thank you for that. Can I set out my personal passion for education, science and Scotland's place at the centre of world-leading research. It gives me great sadness to have to be talking this afternoon about an immigration policy of Westminster's making, which has the potential to do so much damage to the international standing and reputation of our higher and further education institutes. After all, it was Scotland's very own Winnie Ewing, Madam Miss Coss, who worked so hard to establish the Erasmus and Comenius programmes, also at risk from Brexit, because she knew how vital that exchange of knowledge and people across Europe will be. And while I do welcome the calls for consensus across the Chamber, I do have to regret that the Tories' actions in this area have not been good. After all, as mentioned by Ian Gray and by Ross Greer, the Fresh Talent Initiative was an initiative made in Scotland to meet the requirements of our institutions. It was delivered under Jack McConnell's premiership in this Parliament, and it was adopted by the Tories across the whole of the UK as a post-study work visa. It was then cancelled, and almost to add insult to injury, special consideration was given to the LSE, to Oxford and to Cambridge to continue to access the benefits that it gave. So until we see some real action from the Conservatives at Westminster on this area, I still remain sceptical about warm worms in the Chamber today. A recent survey of 1,000 staff at the Francis Crick Institute in London, one of the largest biomedical research centres in Europe, revealed that 78% of EU scientists at the centre stated they were less likely to stay in the UK. 51% of all staff at the Institute stated they were less likely to stay in the UK. 45% of lab heads said Brexit had already affected their work, either in recruiting new scientists or being excluded from EU programmes, or facing increased costs after the fall of the pound. And 97% of those who responded said a no-deal Brexit would be bad for UK science. If I could quote Dame Anne Glover, the current chair of the Royal Society of Edinburgh, and a former scientific advisor to the EU, in response to that report, she said, "International collaboration and a sustained deep science partnership with the EU is vital in supporting scientific progress and social and economic well-being. A no deal or a hard Brexit puts this at risk, and I reiterate the call I made earlier this year to the Prime Minister to take all necessary steps to secure an agreement on science and research in the Brexit negotiations, which ensures the closest possible research relationship within the EU. These concerns should not be taken lightly. It is vitally important. A recent House of Commons Science and Technology Committee inquiry entitled Preparations for a No-Deal Brexit in the Context of Science and Innovation was published, and I recommend that everyone in this chamber reads that document. In response, the Royal Society of Edinburgh produced a report response on it, and I want to read from their summary. And I find it almost as if any of these concerns could be applied to any aspect of Brexit. In terms of the uncertainty associated with the outcome of Brexit, they said it would have a deleterious effect on the UK's research endeavours. While the UK government has sought to reassure the science community, it says there is a significant lack of clarity and detail. In terms of Horizon 2020 and not being able to access the mono-beneficiary parts of Horizon 2020, it said there are no firm details on what the contingency arrangements will look like. And in terms of the ongoing costs and the impact on universities, it said it makes it very uncertain and unpredictable territory. They go on to highlight Erasmus and the importance of Erasmus, and it says that there must be the needs of the particular circumstances of devolved nations to be taken account of. So there we have it, serious concerns from the brightest and best brains in our country, in the Royal Society of Edinburgh, highlighting the devastating impact this is going to have. Presiding Officer, I convened the Parliament Committee on Education and Skills, and unanimously, and it's one of the committees that does have representations from all the parties here, we wrote to then Ms Patel about our concerns. And they've been highlighted already, but it's worth reiterating. The ETLR, the 3-year visa proposed, will not help Scottish universities. 96.4% of all REU students on undergraduate courses in Scotland expect the length of their study to be greater than 3 years. And a cost between £400 and maybe over £1,000 is not going to be viable to attract EU students going forward. Thank you, Presiding Officer.